With me now for more on all of this is Tal Heinrich, a spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Tal, thank you so much for being here. I know this has been a busy day for you. The World Central Kitchen CEO called this a targeted attack by Israel. It said that they had communicated carefully with the IDF in advance of the convoy's movements. How did this happen?
It's a good question, and I can't speak to the specific of the incident because this is under an investigation. There is, in fact, a thorough investigation, and the facts, the findings of which will be made public. We'll make sure that it's a transparent one. Our defense minister, Yoav Gallant, has already given the order. This incident is being discussed at the highest levels of our government and the military, and it's a very, very tragic incident. These are the good guys. These are the good guys, Elizabeth. They're doing the all-important work of delivering the humanitarian aid that we, you, all of us who are not on the side of the terrorists want to reach the civilians of Gaza. One of my colleagues calls them the unsung heroes of armed conflicts.
They, in fact, helped provide food and meals to Israelis in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks.
That is true. As far as I know, it was one of the first aid organizations on the ground in Israel, helping civilians on both sides of the border. President Isaac Herzog, our president, he also talked to the founder of the World Central Kitchen today, expressed condolences. Really, our hearts go out to the families of these unsung heroes, I will call them here on the show, and to their countries as well.
But Tal, it's just hard to imagine. This isn't like somebody in a moment, in a flash, making the wrong decision and hitting the fire button on a missile or a bomb. These were three separate missiles fired at three separate times on this convoy that was clearly marked and had told the IDF where they were going to be at exactly that time.
I don't want to jump to conclusions. You and I were sitting here in New York, you know, on a rainy day. There's a whole different situation, a war taking place there in my region back home. And tragedies, unfortunately, do happen during wars. But I think one of the things that we have to bring into account here is that when tragedy happens and we are the ones responsible, we take responsibility, we take accountability. Even, you know, you and I have discussed the worst tragedy, I think, of all to us when our forces unintentionally, mistakenly thought that our hostages, three of our hostages, you know, they shot them. So,
right.
So when we admit to the most difficult tragedies in this war, and unfortunately this is one of them, it will be investigated, and we will discuss the findings of the investigation, I'm sure.
But Tal, you do bring up the shooting of those three Israeli hostages who were running, you know, shouting in Hebrew, were wearing no shirts so they could show they weren't wearing suicide explosive devices on top of this device. It feeds into a narrative, a criticism that has come back constantly, that Israel is trigger happy, that you guys are too quick to fire. What's your response to that? And are you concerned about that? Because the international outrage to this is quite remarkable.
So let me just say this. We've been, almost 6 months into this war. The progress that our forces have been making on the ground against those terrorists is really unprecedented, as are the efforts to deliver humanitarian aid, to facilitate humanitarian aid, and to safeguard civilians of Gaza. This is not something that you saw in past conflicts, not in our region. Definitely, you know, when other Western countries are involved, it's really unprecedented in the history of urban modern warfare, what we've been doing. And we just concluded, by the way, a very, very surgical operation in the Shifa compound, where we took out 200 terrorists, arrested 900 more with no civilian casualties. So again, it's a war. We didn't want this war. We didn't start it, but tragedies do happen.
All right, I want to ask you about Iran, because this is in the aftermath of the assassination of these three top Iranian generals in Syria. Mobs in Iran demonstrated today chanting "Death to America, death to Israel." Iran said today that the United States must answer for Israel's actions in this assassination. The U.S. played no role in this attack in Syria. Israel did not inform the U.S., according to our own government sources and public comments given today. We were not even told about this attack ahead of time. One former CIA official called the attack, quote, reckless and very dangerous to American forces in the region who could be targets of Iranian retaliation. Shouldn't Israel have coordinated this with the United States, or at least given a heads up?
Well, first,
given the fact that we're going to be targeted?
I have no comment about the incident specifically, about these reports. I've seen these reports. What I do know, and I can echo the words of Daniel Hagari, the IDF spokesperson, who was asked about this incident. According to our intelligence, this building that was hit in Damascus, it wasn't some diplomatic mission. It was, in fact, a military base in disguise, in civilian disguise for the Quds Force, which is one of the branches of the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. Everywhere you look around the Middle East, almost, where you see chaos, you see bloodshed, you see violence, you have the fingerprints of Iran.
But the point is, and that's what what many are concerned about, is that the U.S. will pay a price as well for this attack on these 3 Iranian generals. That I know you can't officially acknowledge that Israel's behind that, but off the record, Israeli sources have confirmed that. Witnesses say they saw Israeli fighter jets firing these missiles. Israel took action in Syria, reportedly, that the United States may end up paying a price for. The United States was not given a heads up at all.
Again, I can't specifically address these reports, this incident, no comment on our end, but we are on the same side here, the United States and Israel. They're chanting, as you said, death to America and death to Israel. We're the small Satan, you're the bigger Satan. And this is part of the axis of evil. You know, Iran has been using its proxies all across the region to target Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Just yesterday, we had a drone from Iraq, rather, shot by militias, pro-Iranian militias in Iraq in our direction. So everywhere you look, there's Iran.
Okay.
And they're so dangerous. Just think how much more dangerous they could be if they ever acquire nuclear weapons, which will never allow that to happen.
Very quickly, how long will this investigation into the killing of these aid workers take? It shouldn't take that long.
I don't have an answer. If I do, I'll text you.
But fully transparent on it?
Fully transparent.
All right. Well, Heinrich, thanks so much for coming in. Glad to have you tonight.
Thank you.
All right.